Michael.
Hello, okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1, go. Panel, I think the biggest indicator when a team loses a grand finals in debate is when they fail to engage with an entire line of analysis that opposition runs with, because they never really engage about the fact about how it undermines institutional integrity and creates operational frameworks. But like panel, here's the brutal truth that no one on proposition wants to say out loud. When decisions hit and layoffs begin, generalists are the first to be filtered out. Why? Because they are the easiest to replace and the hardest to justify, because there is no metric. Proposition has still never given us a metric on how you can actually employ generalists in the first place. Because when budgets tighten, they don't cut the specialist who keeps the system running. They cut the generalist who never really truly owned anything. 3 things in my speech. Firstly, Dan's rebuttals, taking down proposition at their best. Secondly, clashes with different layers of analysis. And thirdly, weighing this debate down on like 3 different metrics: magnitude, vulnerability, and time frame. But like before moving on, one strategic mistake that proposition really makes in today's debate is trying to like opt into our benefits by telling that these people can like specialize later. Big question, because when you tell that shifting fields later is harder, but somehow specialization is not, because they pose a major question. Why can't like generalists specialize later? 3 responses against this. Late specialization is inefficient and expensive. The job market punishes late bloomers in and of itself. The earlier you specialize, the faster you get better returns, and the more competitive you become. Playing catch up then costs time, income, and credibility. Moving back to the framework that we already like settled this debate on, which is like stability and like security for like college graduates in general. Second like response: early specialization compounds like advantages in general. Why? Because specialists then gain seniority, build institutional memory, and climb faster. You just don't enter like tech leadership at 35 with a generalist resume. You'll get there by like compounding technical growth over time. Third response: generalists often never make the jump because the structural inertia is that quite real battle. Most generalists on their side of the house get locked into like mid-skill, not promotable roles, and by the time they realize that they tell that okay, we might need to specialize, they are years behind and filtered out before they begin. I think they start pushing on like 4 major ideas. Like firstly on like flexibility. I think firstly flexibility is not employability. Secondly, market does not reward switches, as I've already told you, because career switching is not frictionless. It requires retaining risk and often a financial reset, something that people have to like take a lot of like risk while doing in the first place. Thirdly, flexibility is a privilege, not a right. Because only the wealthy can really afford to like try out different fields. Their entire like engagement is like quite like very disproportionate in nature. Because the majority of graduates can't afford a 6-month learning curve. They need that now. Jobs benefits the elite, ours protects the rest. Secondly, on like employability, they try telling to us that it's like quite transferable. 3 responses against this. Hiring is often like demand driven because like job descriptions are like often specialized at nature. At their best, people might be able to get employed in the first place, as I said, at an entry-level job, but there's no upward mobility because there's nothing much they can really learn. There's no scope for specialization. Thirdly, even if they get hired, this just proves that they can more easily be replaced, and I'll be like going under this like under my clashes. The third point was about how it's like hard to make a choice. Firstly, on like the illusion of choice. Secondly, these people are like never really satisfied. Why? Because there's always a cognitive overload, thinking that they might be able to get a better job because they are generalists in nature. They should have the option to like change their field, but because of that, they have a cognitive overload, never feeling that they have the best job possible. This is a real issue on like their side of the house. Thirdly, on our side, and the comparison is quite simple. Clarity reduces like career anxiety and like improves psychological like well-being. Okay, thirdly on this point of leadership, this really doesn't make sense, but I still engage because why not? Because panel house is exclusive, because like university like already prepares you for like a lot of like generalist ideas like communication, being a good leader. These are things that you learn at clubs. Thirdly, this is at like our worst, this is like even like a very personal thing in general. This is a personal thing. Are you a good leader? Are you good at communicating? This has no relation to like being a generalist at all. They needed to prove that link and like mechanize it in the first place. Then moving on, they say this entire claim on how the industry could collapse. But that is a very uncharitable characterization because the industry will always remain to like some scope. The specialist will always have an advantage because they always have more expertise, they have more technical like expertise as a whole. Thirdly, they give this major push at like third about how work is different than education. Apparently the core concepts still stay the same, but on our side of the house, while specializing, when you do internships, when you do projects, you get a better feel of the work that you're going to do in the future. What does the comparative look like on their side of the house? Because generalists will never have the feel for the job because they keep switching their job as a whole. Because finally, even at the end, proposition still does not give us a metric on how we can judge like generalists in the first place. Because when they also don't engage with the entire like argument that second or gives you about how it undermines like institutional integrity and like create operational fragility. Why is this very important? Because we told you about like structural asymmetry. Secondly, about how like bias issues like stem in the first place because there's no metric. There's like other metrics that they have to judge other than skill. We give you like multiple layers of analysis on like why this works. Because panel, they still don't answer this major question on how you can like stand out as a journalist on their side of the house, which is why they like lose this debate. Okay, now moving on to like the major clashes of today's debate. On the first clash, which side provides the most stable life for graduates? Because as you already told you, like most graduates are like rational economic actors. They want to repay debt, they want to gain traction, they want to move upward. So what does this actually look like? This looks like on our side, specialists start ahead, better salaries, less retraining, while on their side, generalists often like stall at like mid-skill jobs, lacking both leverage and trajectory. Why this is very likely? Because companies want hires who deliver immediate value. The world is capitalistic in nature, and we all must know that. Let's talk about the next point on like psychological security. Specialization answers life's biggest questions early. Where do I belong? What problem do I solve? Generalists often like enter cycles of like existential doubt, role hopping, income stability, lost time. The comparative impact is that on our side, like stability and self-direction and salary. Why does this clash therefore matter? Because it touches every single graduate. Because stability is not a perk, it's the fundamental foundation for fulfillment, freedom, and freedom. So why does this clash therefore matter? Because we also tell you about how the outcome of education is employability. This clash shows which part actually converts learning into livelihood. Now, even if you didn't buy anything in my speech, I'll do in 15 seconds why DPS should walk away as national champions. Because ask yourself this, who gets cut first in a crisis? The generalist. Who gets trusted, promoted, and remembered? The specialist. Because this debate isn't about the lucky few who could afford to fail, it's about the silent majority. This debate was never about range, it was about relevance. Silent opposition, thank you.
We'd like to end the schedule for that final speech. We now start with the closing 5 speeches.
Honestly, Aryan, they have an upper hand in a way. Yeah, EC specialist, you can't really.